Hello, everybody. Buddy Web Midland, Texas. New video here. It's real super interesting. Just this week, I got a message on my new TikTok channel about the Hailey Dunn murder. Okay, another guy saying he has information. You can't imagine how many people I've documented. Anyway, there is my. I've started this a month ago. Had over 250,000 views on TikTok just in the last month. I posted a video here. She saw Hailey Dunn. This was a short video. You know, that's the nature of TikTok, is short videos. And here, this guy, Brandon Sims, 93, he wrote, they were all in jail when that happened. And I wrote, who was in jail and how do you know when Hailey was killed? That is information that has never been released. We know when she was reported missing. Anytime anybody says that, it throws up red flags. You know what I'm saying? Because I start asking questions. And I've heard that before, actually, from Hailey's mom, Billy. Oh, they were in jail when that happened. You know, when this happened. Well, how do you know when it happened? You know? I mean, how do you know something nobody else knows is my question, you know? And he says, I don't know when she was killed, but I know she was at David Parker's house when she died, and he put her in a freezer in a big hole behind his house. Well, I think that's real important information Brandon Sims posted on on the public here, because now there's a guy, it's the mom's boyfriend, Shawn Adkins, has been indicted for her murder, saying he bashed her head in. Okay. And the problem here that I've seen with that is I've documented all these people saying Hailey was overdosed in Odessa with who, where, how, everything, you know. And so what I want to show you here, this is Shawn. Okay. Shawn indicted on murder, tampering with evidence charges in the Hailey Dunn case. This was January 3rd of this year, and I'm going to show you here. I think it's right here where it talks about he bashed her head in. Okay, yeah, here it is. The indictments came December 30th, accused of striking Hailey Dunn in the head with an unknown object, causing her death on December 26th. This is the first mention of a cause of death from any official or court document since Hailey's body was found. Okay, so they got Shawn indicted for a murder, say he bashed her head in, nobody else, okay? And I've got all these people documented saying Hailey was killed over in Odessa by overdose with all kinds of details. That's what we're going to get into. This video is looking at evidence. I just showed you Brandon Sims. So now law enforcement can go talk to Brandon and say, how do you know that Hailey was killed at David Parker's house? And they can trace that back. Because if he's just out there making up stuff about the murder of a child, they can charge him. I mean, I think we can all agree to that. That'd be at least be obstruction of justice in a capital murder, right? If you're making up stuff. And he said it as a fact. This is where she was killed, in Odessa. Okay, so I want to go through. Let's start with looking at some pictures so the people that don't know can find out get up to date. Here was the reward at one time, a $30,000 reward. Missing child Hailey, last seen December 27, 2010. Here's Hailey Dunn, age 14. And you see her, she was a Texas cheerleader, Colorado City. Okay. This picture here, I think is important because this picture was 2 days before she was reported missing, and that's her mom, Billy Dunn, and there's Shawn, and that's who is arrested for her murder right now. So to show you just how young she was at the time, okay? This is just go on the internet, look at some Billy Dunn pictures. There's the mother, okay? We're going to talk about her more in a minute. Here's another one that come off the internet. Is another Billy Dunn picture right there. She, I have some information that wasn't in the press. The press has been hiding information from the public like normal. But what we found out is she was a stripper. Okay. And so, and I was also told she was taking Hailey to the strip clubs with her. I'm going to show you where I was told that. And this is the dad, Clint Dunn, right here. And he, there's a lot of things been said about Clint. And I've wondered if Clint isn't also hiding information about the murder of Hailey Dunn. I've got a recording on him that I didn't even put in this here. So what we're going to do is go over all these pieces of evidence. And my point here is, if Shawn's indicted for murder for bashing her head in, then all these people are documented saying what happened to Haley. They need to be called into that trial and go, no, she was killed in Odessa by an overdose. I saw her. And, whatever. You got, whatever, almost 10 different people here saying pretty much the same thing. Let me start at the beginning. How did I get involved? Okay, here's how I got involved. It was on March 14, 2013. I sent an email to the Department of Justice, okay? And I suggested they come to my house and they look for clues in the disappearance of Haley. I said in this email, I have overwhelming evidence to support the allegations of an underground facility. Haley Dunn, okay? Maybe she's being held by these slavers below my home right now. And 2 days later, on March 16th, they find her remains in Scurry County. Okay, so here, she's been missing for 2 years. As soon as I send this email to the Department of Justice, bada bing, bada boom, we found her. No reason to go look at Buddy's house. Okay, do y'all see that? Okay, now let me show you a little bit more here. The guy that found her 2 days later was this guy. It's Curtis Lloyd right here, man who found Haley on March 16th. That was the date right there, 2 days after I sent that email. So Curtis sent that. Here's what's interesting that nobody knows, okay? I've documented almost 50 other homeowners reporting people in the attic since I was ambushed and shot, reporting people in my attic, okay? With more than a dozen addresses in Midland, another dozen in Odessa. And I'm sure that's the tip of the iceberg. This is widespread racketeering, organized crime, okay? They've tried to cover this up. Oh, all of the crime victims are crazy. All of them, and they won't even go investigate. It's just absolute bullshit. This is organized crime. They're breaking in these homes. It's free rent, etc. Okay, and then they tried to murder me. 3 women told me they were drugged and raped after reporting people in the attic. Anyway, one of the homes where I was told about, my roofer told me about, where the owners were reporting people in the attic was on Dartmouth, 2505 Dartmouth. Well, I always look at the next door neighbors because I suspect there's a tunnel coming from that house over to the victim's house. And when I looked at the next door neighbor to the victim's house, I saw Terry Lloyd lived there, and that's the parents of Curtis Lloyd, the guy that found Haley Dunn 2 days after I wrote the Department of Justice and suggested they look in the underground homes here. And the questions asked if Curtis Lloyd is part of the crime ring, and he was somehow chosen to go find Haley's remains after they were moved from Odessa, which is Ector County, over to Scurry County. And I looked at, see the obituary shows that Curtis Lloyd, that's his parents, lived next door to a home where people were reporting people in the attic. I figured he grew up in that home. I got a feeling he knows about the people in the attic crime ring. And I think that crime ring's connected to all this together. Okay. As I showed a minute ago, or no, I didn't. Here in 2012, News West 9, October 25th, 2012, they wrote an article saying a woman named Sonia Renee Callahan had written a letter claiming, it's right here, claiming that he saw a young girl who matched Dunn's description, and she was held against her will and drugged in Odessa home. The girl eventually died of an overdose and was dumped behind the Ector County Coliseum. Okay, so now we know law enforcement can investigate, call in as a witness. Let's say Shawn's lawyer could call in Sonia Renee Callahan because she wrote this letter and said, I saw her over at this house, what house, when, you could ask all these questions, and it goes on to say, was all this sparked from a dope deal that went horribly wrong, and Haley was used as collateral for a drug debt that the teen's family owed? You're going to hear other people say that same thing. She had told her over the phone it was Haley Dunn, okay? And the reason they overdosed her, they gave her drugs, was because she was so out of it. According to the letter, the girl reportedly died. Body was dumped behind the Ector County Coliseum. They were laughing in her face. That pisses me off right there, So anyway, y'all can look that up on News West 9, and, that should come out in trial, right? I mean, don't y'all all agree to that? That should come out in trial. 4 years later, Sonia called me. Okay, I have a link to this video here, and I've got it recorded here. We're going to listen to a part of it. This is the same woman that was quoted for writing the letter, and here's what she told me on the phone 4 years later.
How are you?
Oh, pretty good. Is this Renee?
Yes, it is, sir.
Okay.
How are you doing?
Oh,
Good.
I'm doing pretty good. I was just waiting on your call. Your sister told me that you were going to call, and so...
Yes. You know, this has been a hell of a thing with this issue, you know what I'm saying? It's been a rough one.
Yeah, I mean, I really can't even imagine, you know,
I was there at the house, and I seen her, you know, my heart just went down to the floor. What do I do? Either respond in her life or mine, you know what I'm saying?
Right. She just admitted to witnessing the murder of Hailey Dunn on a recorded phone call. Do you think that should be brought up in Shawn's trial where they say he bashed her head in? I think so. Here, I'm going to go to the next one, okay? This one here is a screenshot from a Hailey Dunn blogger named Angelina Mitchell, okay? And she says, Renee said, that was the same person, that's why that's here. She said, Renee said it was not Hailey seeing herself as a runaway in the local news. Then the guy gets a needle and a spoon, unaware what Hailey was injected with. I feel to calm her down. Hailey was given heroin, but it accidentally kills poor Hailey, okay? So Angelina is on record saying that Renee said that Hailey was overdosed with heroin. That's specific detail about the murder of Hailey Dunn, and that should also be brought in court. Let's go to the next person, Christy Ott Smith. What happened was I made this video called Midland, Texas Tunnels Gone Part 3, and I mentioned Hailey Dunn in it. This woman named Christy Otts right here, she watched the video back in 2015, 2016, and she wrote me, okay? And she said, I received Hailey Dunn's murder confession in June 2015. Since reporting it, my life's gone upside down. I went from a successful college graduate in psychology, etc., etc., etc. No longer have my children, no job, and I'm losing everything down to my house. That was my first contact with Christy. She then contacts me on Facebook under, she used a fake name, Allison Mack, but it's still Christy Otts. And it was a longer letter. You can see it right there. I'll back off a little bit, but I'll just read just a little bit to her. She told me, this is Christy, says, the guy said she was traded by her mother for a drug ballast, $135 worth of meth. While she was in the care of the dealers, she flipped out and they shot her up with something. She overdosed and died. The guy who confessed to me said he took her back to her mother and they stuffed her into a box. He described the way they had to bend her and break her to fit. They then buried on her ranch outside of Odessa. That's Ector County. Remember, she was found in Scurry County 2 days after I wrote the Department of Justice. She goes on to write me here and says, I'm forwarding an email to you now. Hailey's name is not said in the emails, but she is the child I'm referring to. BB is Brett Bushman. That's who she said confessed, was a guy named Brett Bushman. Okay, one of the wealthiest families in Odessa is the Bushmans. It's unknown if they're related, though. That would be interesting. Okay, here's another letter. It was a picture she took of a letter she sent me to her supervisors at Turning Point, a drug rehab place over there in Odessa. So Christy mailed me this, and she said, and then this was to her bosses. She's right. Since he did have a hand, I'm not afraid of BB, Brett Bushman, but since he did have a hand in stuffing a child's body inside of a safe, etc., 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 and then she goes on to talk about his confession of involvement in 3 separate homicides, okay? And there's even more in this talking about how he was affiliated, which means a gang member, okay? So that was the multiple statements from Christy Ott Smith about the murder of Hailey with details saying Brett Bushman. More stuff that could be investigated, brought up in court for Shawn Adkins, because remember, they're saying Shawn bashed her head in, okay? Also keep in mind, Renee Callahan also said it was because of family drug debt, and that confirmed what Christy said. They're all saying the same thing. Okay, here's another woman. She'd watched this video I made called Hailey Dunn Murder Confession, and she writes on my YouTube channel. This is out in the public, And Taryn Thomas here says, I think it's safe to say we all know that her mom, stepdad, as well as Hailey were on dope. People in Odessa have been saying the same for him for years. And Julie Brindle says, I heard a similar but slightly different version from a friend who talked to the man that said he did it. So Julie Brindle needs to be investigated, called into court, witness for Shawn Adkins. Don't y'all agree? She said mom did sell her. Okay, that says posted in the public. Not Buddy said, she said. I've got a print screen of it. Then Taryn says they had Haley for a good while. Haley knew who had her, and it wasn't a hostage situation. People said that they had heard people had gone to the house while she was there, and she was walking around like it was her house. But what was weird, I heard from more than 10 people that they shaved her head like 2 weeks before she supposedly overdosed. Why shave her head if you aren't trying to hide her? Now, supposedly she was buried in that same house's backyard in Odessa, okay? Y'all see what I'm saying? Taryn Thomas needs to be investigated and or called to court to testify in this murder case for Shawn Adkins and Hailey Dunn. Okay, here's the next person. This documented. Brandy Dunn contacts me on Facebook Messenger, and she says, I know she was at Brooke Owensby's house. I had just recently found that out. I have more info than you can imagine. I said, so you know what happened to Haley? She says, I'll give it out, but you have to put a press release saying that Casey Frazee and Dustin Braddock were not there or whatever. And then she goes on to say, there's a video of it and the cops have it. And I said, what? There's a video of what? Haley's murder? And Brandy says, yes, it was with the video of Cody Mercer's murder. The cops have both of them. I said, that's interesting. I didn't know who that was. Was he murdered there too? And she says, yeah, he was. Okay. Then another woman, Jessica Lee Hadley, right here, she's telling me this long story, which is real interesting. And then she says, it sounds like you're talking about Cody Mercer, the woman named Brandy, said that the same people who murdered Haley also killed him. She also said there was a video and the cops have it. And Jessica tells me, yes, that's correct. They videotaped the whole thing. It's disgusting and absolutely true. And that tells you that Jessica is confirming what Brandy said, is that there's a murder of Hailey Dunn and Cody, and that the cops have it. That's two different people, and she's describing it. So once again, Jessica and Brandy can be subpoenaed into court for the Shawn Adkins, where he's indicted for bashing in Haley's head when all these people saying she's overdosed, right? And supposedly now there's a video of it. Allison also told me she watched the video of Cody being murdered. Very graphic. It was horrific, is what she told me. Okay, let me go to the next person. A woman named Melissa Renee Brott. Okay. Here, I think I'm going to start here. What happened was Melissa Renee Brott contacts me and said she had information about Haley's murder, and I've got all these print screens on that. And then I don't hear from her, and then I find out she died. Okay, and she told me in these emails she was scared for her life. I'm going to go over what I kind of wrote here. Melissa Renee Brott contacted me on Facebook Messenger in 2017, said that she believed Haley was murdered at her home at 6619 Cloudcroft. I have a print screen saying that. She told me that her two cousins worked for MPD, and she believed her life was in total jeopardy. I have a print screen of her saying that. 8/20/18, I emailed Midland Chief of Police Seth Herman the entire conversation with Renee, and he replied back. Okay, on 9/27, I emailed Seth a recording of a woman telling me the kids were buried under a home near my home, and found that he blocked my emails. That's another story. Okay, and then on 2/22/19, Melissa Reyna is dead. Okay, and she was scared to death, and and I'd kept her confidence, except that I'd sent it to Seth Herman, and that's kind of fishy. He blocks my emails, and now she's dead. I'm going to show you here. This is just one of the print screens between Melissa Reyna Brott, who was going under Facebook as Angel Cherry. She says Hailey Dunn was actually buried in between two buildings going out to Gardendale on a private lot in between Odessa and Kermit. But as I said, I know that baby girl was given a hot shot inside my trailer in the back room by no other than Brandy Dunn. Okay, she says was told to give by David. Brandy was with David Manning. So was Haley mom? And I said, I was told that Letty's the person who ordered it by two people. And she says, so was Haley's mom. She was with David Manning for a minute. Taggart has known Brandy her whole life, helped raise her. Do you see how it all ties into Brandy? Brandy lived in my trailer. Okay, so that was just one of the. I have a lot more about that and a lot of print screens about Reyna Brott, but she said that Haley was killed at 6619 Cloudcroft. Next person. Now we can't call Raina in to testify because now she's dead. And I was told that her trailer, her 6619, burned to the ground. Ain't that interesting? Tisha Ann Wilkinson Brumley, she tells me, but my niece a few years back ran with the Aryan Nation. She seen Hailey Dunn 2 times. One was at Jackie Thompson's, one at a connection. She called me, asked me what she should do. I told her, give me the information and I will call the cops. She was scared. Took her a few days to tell me. When she did, 30 minutes after she told me, she called me crying, saying she went back to the connection's house and Hailey was dead. They hid her in a septic tank for 2 days, then dumped her in Big Springs. Now let me give you a little bit more information. This niece of Tisha's lived right down the street from Raina Brought at 6619 Cloudcroft. That's where she saw Hailey at once. The other person was at Jackie Thompson's house, and he's a former Odessa police officer that went to prison for dealing meth, and so his name's going to come up again too. So once again, we could come in and investigate, run that back to the niece. Other people in Odessa have told me about this girl that was there that had talked to Hailey before she died at them homes over there. Okay, and I'm sure it's the same one. Okay, and then we have Allison Frazier. Okay, and Allison is what I call. She has a recording. I'm going to show you here. It's called Another Tale of Why, Where, but Mostly Who. This is a phone call recorded from Allison and the blogger, Angelina Mitchell, okay? And it was posted to Blog Talk Radio. I made a copy of it and then it was deleted. I call it the tell-all. This tells what happened to Hailey. And, Allison has a baby with Kevin Rickman, aka Birdie, okay? And she was saying that Birdie went down to his knees crying, telling her, let me tell you what happened. That the mom owed money for drugs. We went over to Colorado City, named the people that was there. It's all on this phone call, okay? And they kidnapped Hailey, took her back to Odessa, and was pimping her out. And then she overdosed and died. And that's all in this phone call right here. Here's a little bit more about it too, talking about Jackie Thompson.
I think the police are trying to figure out where else the body is.
The body was also at Jackie Thompson's backyard.
Who's Jackie Thompson?
Jackie Thompson was a police officer in a reputation. He got arrested with 5 overdose charges.
Okay, so Allison said the body was in the backyard of Jackie Thompson. Now remember, Tisha also said that her niece saw Hailey at the home of Jackie Thompson. All these people's stories add up. Okay, that's the point I'm making, and all this can be taken into court, and and they can be called to testify about what they said. Once again, if you're just making up stuff about the murder of a child and spreading it online in the public, you could go to jail for that, right? I mean, and that's definitely obstruction of justice because this is capital murder of a little girl, and so these people are documented saying what they said. Okay, here's another conversation. From Allison here, and she's writing me. She says, buddy, you told you Cindy Hines was part of that. This is not true. Cindy was kicking in doors looking for Hailey, okay? And I said, the person asked me, and the person was Raina Brought, okay, that I already went over. I said, asked me to not release her name due to fear of the AB, the Aryan Brotherhood gang members over there in Odessa. That's who supposedly took Hailey. Okay, but like I said in that post, she calls out a lot of names, but I'm unsure of which ones were there when Hailey died. She called out Robbie, Cindy Farmer, or Hines, Olivia French, Letty, Erica Hagar, Lunatic. That they all have in the gangs. They have nicknames. Bill Yancey is Ghost, and so I guess that's his gang member name. Static is Braddock. Menace is Norman. I guess Cheryl Serber, Jenny McCarty, Brett Bushman, and this is all the Raina called out these names in them emails that I sent to the chief of police and Taggart. I don't know any of these people. It's just what I was told. I just took it to mean it was people that was connected with that group. She did say that Braddock, Frazee, and David was there when Hailey was killed, though. She even gave me an address too on Cloudcroft, I think. And I was talking about Raina Brought. And then Allison says Olivia French, Menace Taggart were there when Hailey died. That's what she's saying. So once again, it seems like important information when they're charging a guy with murder, right? Saying he bashed in her head. And so Allison's on record. There's a whole bunch more to that too. Okay. I've got a young neighbor lives here contacted me, and she sent me this, but she's afraid of these gang members, rightfully so, and she has to be kept anonymous. So, I gave her a name to law enforcement, though, okay? And she writes me right here, and she says, exactly, otherwise she wouldn't act so bothered and bold on Facebook. I'd look into that man. Apparently, when the Courtney girl was under the influence, the truth come out to her aunt, Dawn Singleton. She told me that her boyfriend was involved and threatened to kill her if she repeated anything. Okay, so my young neighbor told me this, that this Courtney, another young girl here, and I'm going to show you a picture in a minute, had sent an email, okay? And so here's the pictures of the email and the Haynes guy. And what I did, I said, I sent this to Allison, okay? And I said, do you know this guy? A neighbor told me that his girlfriend was telling her aunt that he said he was involved in Haley's murder, okay? And is he one of the guys that you heard was there? And yes, he was there the night she died, okay? So once again, Allison is on record saying this guy was there, okay? And I suspect he's probably one of them gang members, one of them Aryan Brotherhood gang members. Kind of looks like one. And so here we go. The next one, okay? Hailey Dunn killed over a family drug debt. This is another person that I called. I recorded, but she wanted to be kept anonymous. She's afraid of these dangerous gang members, and of course, that it looks like we have police that are helping them. Not all police, the corrupt police. Okay, but so this is part of this conversation that was recorded, and I made a video out of it, and I want you to listen to that. A lot of information in here too. Actually, this woman told me, she was told by her friend of hers that was there and witnessed the murder of Haley. And in the conversation, which you can listen to, she says, he said, will God hold me accountable? And she says, were you there? He says, could you have stopped it? He says, yeah, I could have stopped it. He says, how could you have stopped it? He says, I could have shot the son of a bitch, and I'm going to before it's over. Max Mays is who he was talking about. That's what she said in this video. I'm going to let you listen to a little bit more of this too.
And Letty made it very clear to these guys that she was tired of people taking advantage of her, and that this would be an example of what would happen if these son of a bitches didn't come up with some money. And I'm talking about Haley.
Oh, okay, because...
So she's saying, and she wasn't the only person that told me that a drug dealer named Letty had ordered the murder of Haley, and it was because the mom owed money. And see, remember, Sonia said it was over a family drug debt. Christy Ott said Brett Bushman said it was over a drug debt. Allison said that Birdie said the mom owed me money for drugs. Everybody is saying the same thing, right? But all of a sudden, here you got Shawn, indicted for bashing her head in. It's the weirdest thing in the world. Once again, this woman, she had went to law enforcement with her friend that witnessed the murder of Haley, Ector County law enforcement, and told them what happened. And I don't know if it was ignored or what. It's like they're trying to frame this guy. And then the last one, which is just come in this week, okay? Just is within this week. I have the TikTok channel I showed you right in the beginning, and that's when he said, oh, she's killed at David Parker's house and buried in a freezer, a big hole behind the house. Once again, confirmation it was in Odessa, okay? And so there's another person, as I said earlier, we already went over to him. This is just a crazy, crazy, nutty case, how they've got Shawn indicted. I don't know how you can get all these people up here documented on what they said. Okay, now here, let me get to some nitty gritty. Here, Erica Morse is a private investigator working with Clint Dunn, the father. Okay, she has repeatedly smeared my name in the public, and I believe she's tried to frame Shawn. Okay, that's what I believe. Because look at all that evidence, She can't be a legitimate investigator. I mean, obviously, right? And she wrote this here within the last month. This video was just posted in June 22. And Erica Morse, this investigator for the Hailey Dunn murder, wrote this. She says, knowing you, she's talking about me, and another guy named SKE, which is another Hailey Dunn blogger, are probably the defense's only witnesses to make this trial easy. And as I'm saying, I'm not even a witness at all, other than I sent that letter to the Department of Justice. I mean, that's everybody else is documented. It's not Buddy said, Allison said, not Buddy said, Sonia said, not Buddy said, Taryn Thomas said, not Buddy said, anybody said. I've got it all documented. But Erica, the private investigator that's supposed to be legitimate, she says the man with schizophrenia teams up with a psychopath to try and free a child killer. Take your meds already. She wrote that in the public within the last month. This, like I'm saying, she is trying, as far as I'm concerned, trying to cover up the murder of Hailey Dunn. You can't look at all that evidence and tell me that ain't the case. And then here, the guy that identified 50 other homeowners reporting people in the attic after I'm ambushed and shot. The guy that has proof showing I wasn't shot with my gun, and they smeared my name. What she also forgets to mention is where the ex-wife said if I didn't pay her extortion money, she's going to tell everybody I was crazy. Here's might explain it. A woman named Becca Blackman Miles posts this on YouTube about Erica. She says, Erica Morse, your cheese has slid right off your cracker. You need to shut your lying ass mouth, because I'm dealing with real things in my life. Don't have time with your compulsive liar, antisocial personality, mess smoking, swinger club attendant, attention sinking, billy goat smelling ass. Now I can't confirm if her ass smelled like a billy goat, or even if she's smoking meth and attending swinger plugs. But I tell you what, I suspected the swingers were hanging out in the underground homes here, and I wonder if Erica wasn't down there below my house, okay? And that's why she's trying to cover this up, because I've also wondered if Hailey wasn't down there, okay? I'm going to show you one more video here. This is a recording from a podcast from Erica Morse, that private investigator that as far as I'm concerned, been trying to frame Shawn all along for years, trying to frame Shawn. Here's what she said. Here's what Erica said, the alleged swinger mess smoker, private investigator for Hailey Dunn.
Yeah, there was just a lot of deviancy. There was definitely some drug abuse going on under the house or under that roof.
Did you hear that? That's why I called it Freudian slip, okay? Because she says there's definitely a lot of drug abuse, a lot of deviancy going on under that house. At the swingers party, at the meth smoking swingers party, that's what I'm wondering. That's what was going on. She was talking about my house, okay? That's what I'm thinking. She slipped up, and then she goes, under that rug, it was a lot of drug using under the rug. Well, that don't make any sense at all. You know what I'm saying? I think Erica knows something about under my house, I think that was a Freudian slip. Okay, now let me go on to the next one. And we're going to talk about the mom, okay? And the dad, Clinton Dunn. One guy, Mikael Morales, he writes me. This guy could be called into court to testify too, And he says, I was told she was pimped out to her father's oil field friends. I was told that the father would get up to $500. So I wondered if Clint wasn't at the same underground oil show parties. Keep in mind that the 2010 oil show was 2 months before Hailey went missing. Okay, 2 months before. And at the time, Billy, the mom, was a stripper taking Hailey to the strip clubs with her. I suspect all the strippers in the area were told to work at the oil show parties. That would put Billy in my backyard in October 2010, and she probably took Hailey. And I got a feeling the rich, wealthy people there don't want anybody to find that out. Okay, so there's more people going to be called to testify. And then Janice Freeman Driver says, now, buddy, I heard that about Billy from a very reliable source, and that Hailey was going with her as well, but staying in the dressing room while BD Billy Dunn worked the pole, the stripper pole, okay? And she wasn't the only one to tell me that the mom was a stripper. Here's an admin for the Hope for Hailey Dunn Facebook group named Stacy. And she's a personal friend of Billy Dunn. She says, no, not in Odessa. Man, keep in mind, while she was stripping, it was a third job because Clinton didn't work. She's a nurse. She's doing secretary work. She was taken up for Billy, going, yeah, well, she had other jobs besides stripping, besides taking Hailey to the strip clubs with her, And she didn't say that. And I'm going to show you just a couple more, and we're finishing out here. Okay. This was posted in the Hope for Hailey Dunn's group, And this was a comment back from Billy Dunn to me, and she blocked me so I couldn't defend myself. Okay, but one thing she said here, she says, "I'm not a drug user or meth addict, nor any of them things. I'm pretty sure you can't cheat on a follicle test, etc., etc., etc." Okay, and then I went on the internet right here, and the results of polygraph examinations. When Haley's mother submitted to a polygraph, according to the affidavit, Dunn was found to be under the influence of narcotics, and investigators wouldn't allow her to continue with the process. Well, do you see the problem there on what Billy says and what the news says about her drug use? And keep in mind, there's several people saying it had to do with the drug debt for the mom, the stripper mom. Okay, don't forget that, the stripper mom. And would strippers be doing meth, do you think? Would they be hanging around gang members, I mean, what do you think, And here's the other thing. She wrote me a longer letter. This was Billy Dunn, and real hateful, man. I mean, real hateful, because I'm just documenting what other people said. I'm the messenger, and they're attacking the messenger. Oh, you're crazy. So that's everybody I documented. It doesn't mean anything. You see, that's their logic. They're trying to cover up the murder of Haley. Is what they're trying to do. But anyway, she goes on and told me, says, I was told by the FBI one of the men she named was actually in prison at the time. Remember, I started with that. Because that was the same thing that Brandon Sims told me on TikTok. Oh, yeah, when that happened, they were in prison. Well, how do you know when Haley died? I mean, that information's never been released, okay? And you got multiple people saying that she didn't die right away. She was over a home in Odessa walking around like it was her home, okay? So now I just wanted to show you the evidence that I have and the people's names and wonder how that court case is going to go down. I sent this in a registered letter to the Attorney General Paxton, and I sent it to the FBI, to the Texas DPS. I sent it to the Mitchell County DA, and I sent it to Shawn, and I never got any reply back from any of them. This is just ridiculous. But like I said, I think the big deal is what's going on is that that Billy took Haley to the parties under my house. Okay, and I think Erica knows about it. I got a feeling Erica was at some of the parties. There were swinger parties down there. That's my guess. But the wealthy and rich people at those parties don't want anybody to find out this famous missing murdered child was at a sex party with them 2 months before she went missing. Like I said, that's the picture of her 2 days before she was kidnapped by them gang members in Colorado City, taken to Odessa to be pimped out, according to Allison. This is Buddy Webb, Midland, Texas. Y'all share this.